If you think that magic only exists in fairy tales, think again. The world is full of magical destinations that are almost too good to be true, and some of them are more accessible than you might think. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're taking a look at 10 magical places you won't believe actually exist. From a manor on a lake to cliffs that seem to be suspended in the air, these places will take your breath away. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Number 10. The Giant's Causeway. This fairy tale destination in Northern Ireland brings to life the land of giants from all your favorite children's stories. The Giant's Causeway is a length of coastline that features mesmerizing, naturally occurring hexagonal columns that populate the water's edge. The landscape was formed by volcanic activity from thousands of years ago, but most people like to believe that the Giant's Causeway was built by Finn McCool, the Irish giant. Popular myth has it that Finn McCool built the causeway as a bridge across the Irish Sea, so that he may face his rival, the Scottish giant Benandonna. Following their brutal meeting, Benandonna ripped the causeway to shreds as he fled back to Scotland, leaving the causeway that we know today. It's also said that Finn's giant boot lies fossilized at the causeway's bay, which locals refer to as Bay of the Giant or Port Noffa. However, there's a lesser-known tale that offers an alternative version to his story, one that was told by causeway guides in the early 18th and 19th centuries. This tale states that Finn built his causeway not for battle, but for love. A poem written by Mary Ann in 1830 tells the story of Finn building the causeway to reach his lover in Scotland, only to have his grandmother call upon magical storms to deter him. Undaunted, Finn rebuilt the causeway anew. Still, his grandmother called upon a tempest to destroy his causeway. He began again one final time, this time building through his grandmother's magical fury. By the time he reached Scotland, he perished in the arms of his lover. Number 9. Bhutan, land of the Thunder Dragon. There's no denying that Bhutan is the land of fairy tale destinations. After all, it has all of the ingredients you'd need to build a magical vista. Towering, endless mountains, quaint, quiet villages, and some of the world's most beautiful landscapes. There's no shortage of places to visit in Bhutan, with its centuries-old fortresses tucked away in the Himalayas, and the Eagle's Nest, a monastery, precariously perched upon the side of a cliff. A favorite destination in Bhutan is Heo Valley and Chela Pass, and rightly so. It's a breathtakingly beautiful landscape that is incredibly tranquil. The valley also houses a small village, with one of the scantiest populations in Bhutan. It's a hotspot for hiking and biking enthusiasts, and is a destination like no other. Number 8. Cappadocia, Turkey. Cappadocia in Turkey is the land of peculiar rock formations and whimsical fairy chimneys. This region's land formations are so unique that it's difficult to believe they actually exist until you see them with your own eyes. Any photograph simply can't do this incredible destination justice. Cappadocia is best viewed from above, which is why the region is famous for its abundance of hot air balloons, often occupied by tourists. If you've ever wanted to visit a place that's like stepping into another world entirely, then Cappadocia should definitely be on your bucket list. And for a truly magical experience, book yourself a ride in a hot air balloon over the region. You won't regret it. Each year, more than 500,000 people enjoy hot air ballooning in Cappadocia, so you'll definitely want to book your flight well in advance. But gliding over the fairy chimneys isn't the only thing to do here. Hiking is another popular activity for visitors, and when it comes to hiking in Cappadocia, it's impossible to pass by the Red Valley. Its sharp sandstone ridges come to life with a vibrant red glow with the setting sun, setting the landscape on fire in the last moments of dusk before night. It's a sight that everyone should see in their lifetime. Number 7. Lake Retba, Senegal. Can't get enough of magical bodies of water? Then be sure to visit Senegal's Lake Retba, or as the French call it, Lac Rose. Many tourists describe Lake Retba as looking like a raspberry smoothie, and from a distance, they're absolutely right. The lake does have a vibrant pink hue when viewed from certain angles. Sadly, it's not quite as pink up close, and you can't take a sip of the lake without feeling quite ill afterward. Lake Retba gets its pink color from a species of algae that produces a red pigment to fight off the high salinity levels of the water. When this pigment collides with salt and is exposed to the sunlight, it gives the entire body of water a pink hue. During the dry season is when Lake Retba is at its pinkest, and like the Dead Sea, it's so salty that floating is easy. You'll often find boats and small vessels floating out at Lake Retba, and there are many locals who are willing to take tourists on a ride out across the lake. Just be sure to bring a hat and some SPF. Senegal gets hot. Number 6. The Tunnel of Love, Ukraine. For lovers looking for a magically romantic destination, consider visiting the Tunnel of Love in Ukraine. It's certainly one of the world's most romantic destinations and is of course breathtakingly beautiful. The tunnel is made up of hundreds of trees and plants that grow around an unused train track in Ukraine. And when the sun is at just the right angle in the sky, the tunnel practically glows. It's believed that a couple who make a wish in the Tunnel of Love will have their wish fulfilled if their love is true. If you believe in that sort of thing, then that would make for an interesting way to test your relationship. While spring is the most popular time of year for tourists to visit the tunnel, locals also say that it is incredibly beautiful after a heavy snowfall, when the ground is covered in white and the air is silent. Number 5. Tosa Ocean Trench, Samoa. Contrary to its name, this otherworldly pool isn't an ocean trench deep under the sea, but rather it's a kind of natural blowhole, for lack of a better word. Its name aptly describes to Big Hole, and this big hole is found on the island of Upolu in Samoa. And yes, before you ask, you can swim to Tosa. Visitors say that it's one of the most magical places to swim in the world. The water is crystal clear, and the trench is surrounded by plenty of natural vegetation that makes you feel as though you've stepped into another world entirely. You can either take the man-made ladder to descend into the pool slowly, or you can channel your inner adrenaline fiend and dive straight into the clear, refreshing water. The beauty doesn't stop there. The western side of this trench opens up to a small, sandy beach that can only be accessed through a cave-like nook. Sheer rock faces made up of volcanic basalt disappear beneath your feet, leaving an epic ladder as the only point of access to the water below. Number 4. The Fairy Glen, Scotland. How could we not include the Fairy Glen on a list of magical places? Located on the Isle of Skye off of Scotland's western coast, the Fairy Glen is a mystical, strange place. Despite its name, it isn't actually inhabited by fairies, but the further you travel up the valley, the more your sense of scale will fly out of the window. It's easy to imagine that this world-in-miniature destination is home to a hidden population of otherworldly beings. Scotland's Isle of Skye has a long history with fairies, most of which is related to Dunvegan Castle and their fairy flag. However, the Fairy Glen itself doesn't have any real legends or stories that involve fairies, at least none that can be traced. The simple fact that the location is so bizarre is what led to it getting the nickname Fairy Glen. Interestingly, in recent years, visitors have started moving the unique rocks here around to form spirals on the ground. This comes as a result of some bus tour guides fabricating rituals involving walking inside the spirals, then leaving a token or coin in the center as an offering to the fairies for good luck. Sounds like those guides are in cohorts with the fairies. Number 3. Antelope Canyon, Arizona. If you've ever used one of the default screensavers on Windows, then you may have already seen Antelope Canyon. This Arizona treasure is an example of Mother Nature doing some of her finest work. Geologists call this kind of formation a slot canyon, since it is a narrow gorge that has been carved into the landscape by running water and mud. Of course, photographers have had their field days here, thanks to the natural lighting and the procession of sculpted forms and shapes. Antelope Canyon is a favorite hiking destination for tourists from around the world. While the terrain is, for the most part, flat, the sandstone surface can be quite tricky on your footing. The upper area of the canyon is the easiest place to hike, with ground-level entry. Lower Antelope Canyon attracts the more adventurous visitors who prefer to navigate longer, sandier hikes to get into the canyon. No matter which route you choose to take, Antelope Canyon is a magical destination that is absolutely worth the visit, especially if you want some amazing photo ops. Number 2. The Enchanted City, Spain. Cuenca, in Castilla-La Mancha in Spain, is famous for its unique architecture. The hanging houses in this area are a sight to behold, and a magical one at that. And if you're able to tear your eyes away from the incredible architecture, you'll be dumbstruck by the stunning rock formations that beg one simple question: how on earth did those get there? These rocks resemble giant mushrooms and appear to have been meticulously placed by a psychedelic god. The Enchanted City isn't the only magical place to see in this area. The surrounding vegetation includes all manner of beautiful plants and flowers, including juniper, gall oaks, bramble, box trees, and more. To complete the storybook picture, flocks of sheep frequently graze in the surrounding area, which smells distinctly of rosemary and thyme. Number 1. Lake Bled, Slovenia. And finally, taking our number 1 spot for the most magical place on Earth is Lake Bled, which contains a small island that looks like the home of the Lady of Shalott. With its aquamarine lake, the centerpiece that is Bled Island, and its castle perched on a cliff, there's no place quite like Bled in Europe. If you're ever in the region, it's most certainly a place to visit. There's constantly opportunities for tourist exploration. Take a boat across the lake's still water. Learn about the unique history of the church. Take a hike around the lake, or simply sit back and enjoy some of the local cuisine while taking in the stunning vista of the surrounding area. Looking across the bright blue water to the historic church at the center, it's easy to understand why Lake Bled is the most popular tourist destination in Slovenia. You've made it to the end of the video. Now it's time for our bonus fact, and this time it's about Scotland's magical Fairy Glen. As we mentioned earlier, there is no real legend as to how the glen was formed, but there is a scientific theory. The Fairy Glen is believed to have been formed by a series of landslips, after which the landscape was smoothed by the movement of glaciers that occurred during the following ice age. In other words, the Fairy Glen has been around for a long time. Which of these magical destinations would you want to visit? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, consider supporting the channel by hitting the like button and subscribing. Every bit of support helps. If you want to be the first to know when we upload another video, click the bell icon below. Until next time,